There we go. I see we are live. Thank you. Thanks, Monica. All right, so welcome everybody. Good morning. I know it is bright and early now, 8:05. So my name is Nikki Caboose. I am the interim CEO of Tech Hub South Florida. And I'm really excited about this morning's discussion because as we were just talking about before we went live, is that this is our first agriculture technology discussion, at least since I've been here in 2 years. So I'm definitely excited to have this conversation this morning and see what comes out of this. So just really quickly for anybody that's watching or in here in Zoom with us, in the top right, the little button says view. If you click on speaker view, you'll actually be able to see all of the spotlighted panelists versus everybody that's in the gallery if you prefer just to see the speakers. And then we also do have Beth Wagmeister from the WAG group doing some ASL interpretation for us this morning. So thank you for that as well, Beth. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. I'm going to do a really brief overview of the organization. Let's see, everybody can see my screen? There we go. Yes. All right. So Tech Hub South Florida. So again, this morning, our discussion, innovation in agriculture technology. And our speakers are Kelvin, is it Llaverias? Llaverias, am I pronouncing that right, Kelvin? Yes, kind of, okay. The IT Director, FCC Agriculture at Florida Crystals, Lior Barhai, founder and CEO of Envonics, and Wanjun, founder and CEO of BiFarm. And we do have Mark on with us this morning, so I'll give him a moment after our presentation because I want to thank them for being our sponsor this morning, the South Florida Business and Wealth Magazine. And then also, again, thank you to Beth for being our ASL interpreter this morning, again, from the WAG group. Thank you again, sponsor there, South Florida Business and Wealth. And it's sfbwmag.com. I can't see now because my Zoom is over it. Yes.com. And our mission statement. So building South Florida's tech hub. So our community creed, Tech Hub South Florida is wholeheartedly committed to building a welcoming, collaborative, and inclusive community for all. We put inclusivity first, engage with others, are considerate to all, and don't sell to people. So in short, we want to make sure that everybody feels that they are welcome to the table. And anybody, of course, is open to attend events and these Zoom meetings as well, no matter where your background or where you're from. And Tech Hub South Florida. So a little bit about us. We are a nonprofit organization, 501c6. We're membership driven or corporate membership driven. We currently have about 215 corporate members from Miami-Dade to Palm Beach County. And then we've got a few trickled into Martin County as well. And for us, these are just a few of our members here. Of course, these are not all of them, but our membership does range from the young startup companies all the way to larger enterprise. So of course, some of our members, Boca Code, Office Depot, Florida Crystals, Nextera, Carrier, there's a bunch of them in there. And of course, again, it's from Miami-Dade to Palm Beach County. And a little bit about our membership. So we have 4 different corporate membership levels. I won't go into this in depth, but all of the membership levels do offer different benefits from different job listings, speaking opportunities, access to different peer groups. So if anybody is interested in getting involved, please feel free to reach out to Monica or myself, and we'd be happy to kind of go through those with you and see if we might be a good resource. And a little bit about our events here. So we do keep pretty active on a weekly basis. We've got Tech Talks, which are right now every other Monday night. We do move them around the region. So we have them held in West Palm Beach, Boca Raton, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami. And then our community coffees, like this morning, are held every other Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. Our podcasts alternate with those. So again, every other Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. And then our lunch and learns are held every other week on Fridays from noon to 1. The lunch and learns typically are introductory. So some sort of introductory or basics of like Agile, introductory to JavaScript, those type of things for anybody that's interested. For anybody that's looking for a job, so we do have a job board on our website, which is techhubsouthflorida.org. You can just click on talent. But then also underneath the talent tab there, we do have something called a resume distributor. So if you're looking through the job board and you don't find a perfect job in that moment that you want to apply for, you can actually just create a profile upload your resume. And once you hit submit, that resume goes to all of our member companies at once, or any companies that have signed up to receive that service. And last but not least, we do have a very active Slack channel. It's techhubsouthflorida.org/Slack. I think there's about 4,600 members on there currently. And then if you'd like to be added to our Monday newsletters that go out every Monday afternoon, you can actually just text us your email to 561-250-7206, and we will make sure to get you added there as well, so you can keep updated on events and news. And I'm going to stop sharing here. And what I would love to do is start out with our sponsor, Mark. If you'd like to say a few words there, tell us a little bit about South Florida Business and Wealth. And again, thank you for being our sponsor every week for these as well.
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. And Nikki, thank you. And Monica as well. We're excited to be a sponsor of Tech Hub and the community coffee events. You guys are doing a phenomenal job, I must say, of bringing people together and creating a sharing of ideas. So hopefully our company, we can give you a little run for your money in terms of some of the things we're doing. So a little bit about South Florida Business and Wealth. We're South Florida's premier business magazine, and we serve Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. Our main goal really is to bring together C-suite executives. We do it through our magazine, sent to about 20,000 executives in the marketplace, but we also do it through a variety of a robust digital platform and social media strategies. We also have a 4-time-a-week e-newsletter, which we share lots of ideas. So I'll include my email contact. If anybody has any information they'd like to share, new developments at their company, please do so. Just like Nikki mentioned, I'm very excited about, we're relaunching our in-person events. We have a very popular monthly event called CEO Connects, which we've started to relaunch already, and we're always looking for great partners. And we've got a series of about 8 to 10 awards events as well. These are Academy Award style events focusing on areas like diversity and inclusion awards, legal awards, and probably our most popular one is called the Apogee Awards, which is an awards event for C-suite executives. And last but not least, we own the South Florida Legal Guide, which is an annual kind of who's who in the legal and accounting community. And we do an annual celebration coming up on November 4th at the Museum of Discovery and Science. And if anybody is looking to get connected, wants to be a part of our events, please shoot me an email. We'll make sure we get you added to the list. And again, Nick, thanks for having us today.
Of course, thank you so much, Mark. And I did want to give a shout out to Kim as well, because she's on here with us. She did a wonderful job at our Tech Talk last week with South Florida Business and Wealth as the main speaker. So that was a little bit different because we're used to having you guys as sponsors. So thank you, Kim, for that as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Of course. So this morning, before we get into the Q&A, I would love to have each of our panelists just introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about you and your company, and then we can open up with Q&A. So I'm going to start with just whoever's first on my screen here. I've actually got Wanjun. You are first up.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hey, my name is Wanjun Gao, founder and CEO of BiFarm Tech. We are an agriculture technology startup focused on sustainability. Our specialty is in precision agriculture. One of the things we provide is aeroponics. We provide a suite of software and the efficient water usage and energy usage of farm equipment for the farmers to do a better operation in a controlled environment.
Thank you, Wanjun. And Lior, I've got you on my screen next.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name is Lior. We're located down here. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Envonics. We're located down here in North Miami. Envonics is an agriculture technology company focused on redefining the scope of possibilities with closed loop systems through specific nutrient monitoring. We're showing farmers new data that they haven't seen before in a continuous manner to allow them to understand, further understand, what their crops are asking for and what their crops really need in terms of the food that they uptake. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Lior. And last but not least, Kelvin.
Yes, good morning, everyone. And thanks again, Nikki, for having all of us. I'm Kelvin Llaverias. I'm the Director of IT for Florida Crystals and the IT lead for our agriculture operations in Florida, Mexico, and Belize. I work in partnership with our executives, determining the initiatives or projects that we can put together to help the business achieve its strategic goals through IT services, tech, and innovation. About Florida Crystals is one of the 2 largest sugar producers in Florida, sugarcane cultivators and producers in Florida. And we also are the largest sugar refiner in the world. And our main agriculture operations in Florida are in the Everglades agricultural area. For those of you that don't know, it's a very unique area in Florida because it has the most unique soil in the world called muck. And it's a very productive soil. So the South Florida area has a very unique agriculture industry, and it is very productive as well. But all throughout Florida, it is very unique as well because we have subtropical weather as opposed to the rest of the United States.
Perfect. Thank you, Kelvin. And Kelvin, to open up the discussion, I actually have, my first question is for you. So I wanted to ask, do you think that farmers have historically adapted to technology advances pretty quickly or pretty well? Or is the agriculture industry maybe a little bit slower to adapt, and why?
Yes, I would say that the farmers and agriculture industry is slow and steady to implement technology. They embrace it, but it's a very slow process, and there's several reasons for that. They have legacy systems or legacy ways to do the operation. It's a generational trait. It's passed on from generation to generation, the knowledge, and the older generations, tend to be slower to adapt. And as the newer ones gain the knowledge, they open up a little bit more. They become more flexible towards the technology. Also, it's a very manual process historically. Agriculture started doing everything by hand. They slowly started adding the cart. They added the ox to pull the cart. Then they invented tractors, and they pulling the implements or whatever was used in the field. And technology has kept evolving, and they keep adding stuff and keep implementing. But another one is the access and the cost efficiency of the technology. Sometimes when these technologies come out, they're very cost prohibitive. They're not accessible. So they have to work trials, try them out, see if it works, try to determine the benefits, and then get themselves convinced of the benefits of applying that technology. So they run through long trials. They make some progress, they go back and forth. And until they can realize that they can make money out of using that technology, they won't implement it as well. So it's harder for small farmers. The bigger corporations tend to implement quicker when a new technology comes out because of the volume of their operations. And when that mass production of technology lowers the price and accessibility of that technology, that's when the small farmers start to get into it.
Thank you, Kelvin. Yeah, I guess my initial thought would have been towards like your immediate example that you used there, but I wasn't even thinking just the cost of it. So I can see historically that, being something that there's not a lot of cost put into it, and all of a sudden technology comes out, and now there's another added factor. And I think, and as you were talking to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Wanjun, but I know for you offer like financing, right? Like for your product, don't you guys use Dimension funding? Didn't I see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a challenge that you just mentioned for the early adopters. The upfront cost is one of the major barriers to adapt the new technology. So we work with the financial groups to offer viable approach so that they can match their income with the expenses. So this way will help them to move forward with this adaptation.
Yeah, make it a little bit easy for them. Yeah, good. So actually, my next question was for you, Wanjun. So sustainability right now is a really popular word, right? We're hearing it everywhere. So can you give us a little more background on the importance of both striving to address the modern needs of farmers in addition to the shift towards this agriculture sustainability? What does that mean?
Yeah, so sustainability is a big word and popular word because it's very important and urgently important. So to understand the context, let's look at the challenges we're facing right now. We have increased population, and we have the increased food demand to support the population. So in the past, we have seen the environmental impacts caused by the agriculture activities, such as the chemical pollution caused by pesticides and fertilizers, and there's overusage of water. The list can go on. But those are the ones that probably first come to people's mind when we talk about the environmental impact. A second aspect of the challenge is a social impact in my mind. More people are moving into urban settings, metropolitan areas. So that creates a gap between where food is produced and where food is consumed. So, so naturally, logistics is needed in between. And any events that can cause the disruption in logistics can cause the disruption in the food availability and also the fluctuation of the prices. That has uneven impacts on the populations, different income levels. So especially lower income people have bigger impact on their financial situation because of the food price changes. The other thing I can see because of the separation of the production and consumption is the reduction in the nutrient facts. In many cases, the food has to be harvested earlier before their prime time. So there's a loss in the quality, and also there is a loss in the process of the transportation. So that is one of the things I can see that has impact on the community health. One of the doctor mentioned the issues there. So there are several aspects about the health related to food. The other major impact I can see is economic impacts to the farmers. Traditionally, there's issue with the production related to weather because they are not really controllable. So governments and NGOs have to step in to help out this industry. But in the long run, to make the agriculture business industry sustainable, it's better to let farmers to be profitable. So how do we do that? The broad term is technology innovation, like Kevin mentioned. Through years, the new technology being adapted, it's just a little bit slow. Specifically, to me, technology like controlled environment and precision aeroponics we are doing gives a little bit. Actually, I would say probably will be the trend towards in the future. So on one hand, the controlled environment will minimize the impact on the environment, right? So the open field application of pesticides will not be there anymore. On the other hand, if we control the environment, the water usage can be better utilized. So that is one piece in the environment. And if we move the controlling agriculture center to where the population is, then we solve the problem of food disruption. We have a better and reliable food supply. And the third one is if we can use technology like Lior is using, if we can have a better yield for the farmers, and that will contribute directly to the bottom line. So in this case, the agriculture industry can be sustainable by itself. So we don't have to push anymore. So that's my my view of the sustainability.
Perfect. And Lior or Kelvin, I mean, do either of you have anything to add to that? Because I know in my research to get you guys on this panel, I was looking at either one of your websites a lot, and sustainability is mentioned very much on all three websites. So I'm curious if you guys have anything to add there as well.
Yeah, so sustainability is a great word to use, and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But kind of building on what Wanjun said, the way we kind of look at it is, to help the farmer use minimum inputs, such as, as little water as possible, as little nutrients as possible, but still being able to produce the highest yield. And therefore, their cost to produce is a lot less and their yield is a lot more. And therefore, as Wanjun was saying, the farmer is now profitable, and especially being locally grown. I mean, I don't know if anybody here has grown anything in terms of like kale or tomatoes, but the flavor that you get and the nutritional value that you get from something that you grow in your backyard versus something you buy in the store is totally different. And the flavor, because we're buying in the store and because it takes a long time to get to the store, people aren't attracted to it because it doesn't taste good. It just feels kind of bland. But when you start growing it and you start getting it local, like the flavor ups exponentially, and that might encourage more people to eat fresher produce, and that contributes to the health of our population as well.
Yeah, I would add that for Florida crystals, it has become increasingly important in the last couple of years, especially driven by our CEO, where sustainability has become a key initiative to follow. And the company wants to become a leader in the sustainability area. And to add, sugarcane is one of the most generous plants, I would say, in agriculture, because we get water out of sugarcane. It's a large percentage of this is water. We get fiber, we get sugar, we get molasses. So there's multiple projects or products coming out of it. We use the water in our operations to cool down boilers and do condensation and all that. We use the fiber to burn and generate power for our own organization. So we're contributing to carbon neutrality there. And we're also using fiber to do dinnerware. We have a company that was funded in the last couple of years called Tellus, where we're doing biodegradable dinnerware made out of the fiber of the cane. And we're also getting into organic for a long time now. We're increasing our organic crop, not putting chemicals into the ground, trying to conserve the soil. We're the only organic sugarcane producer in the US, and also the only organic rice company in Florida as well, because Florida is one of our crop rotations that we use to conserve the soil.
Awesome, Kelvin. I think it's really cool that you again went through sugarcane. Basically, you're using, it sounds like every part of the sugarcane, which is really cool as well. So there's no waste there. So thank you for that example too. I did actually want to ask you, Kelvin. So what role does technology play in the evolution of agriculture? How can more and more farmers that are adapting these technologies, how does this assist in lowering the percentage of families facing food insecurity in our country today?
Well, technology is very important. Like Wanjun was saying before, the population of the world is growing. We have to feed the world. But also when you talk about insufficient, the people or families with insufficient access to food, they have a lot of access to junk food. That's what everyone gets to very easily. So technology plays a key role, because with technology, what we have seen and have proven is that technology helps reduce costs of operations if you use it right and you use it well. And by reducing cost of operations, you can increase the profit margin for the farmers to make it a more attractive career, as Wanjun was saying, again, we have people abandoning the rural areas or the farms and moving into the cities. But who's tending to agriculture? You know, that population is going down. But with technology, it has helped us produce more yield in our field, maximize the productivity of a field, conserve the field, you know, so we don't cause erosion on the field. So I get, you know, implementation of technology is becoming very important. Again, I always refer to cost, because only through mass use of it and mass production can you reduce it and gain more productivity out of your field. And also for the farmers is, how do you give the small farmer accessibility into the supply chain of the market? Right now, that's a struggle that small farmers have, is struggling against the big corporations, or at the farming level, but at the retail level as well. You know, how do you inject yourself to local markets, to the supply chain of agriculture? Like Lior was saying, you know, the best vegetables are the ones that you get straight from the farm, you know, not the ones that are highly treated or go through, you know, a large supply chain or movement to get to the supermarket. You know, technology would be very useful for small farmers if they can inject themselves or cut the middleman and get straight into food markets, or you know, any of these organizations that help feed the needy, and be a supplier, a direct supplier for providing food.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that. I know both of you have mentioned that about the food tasting different too, Lior and Kelvin, because I mean, I'm born and raised in Floridian, but I've always bought foods at the grocery store. And I know actually it was my husband that pushed me to buy healthier foods and buying things that were organic. I mean, he was actually raised in Central America and on a farm. So it was one of those things where you know, you grow your own food. If you're eating chicken, you got to go in the backyard and get a chicken. And so it's funny because we have our people at home that we get eggs from, and we get tomatoes from, and mangoes from. So, and that's all my husband, just finding people that grow it and whatever. And it definitely does taste very different. So for anybody that hasn't had that, they should definitely try some organic foods, because there definitely is a difference. I did want to ask you, Lior, because I know this was brought up earlier about how much agriculture is in Florida and in South Florida. So I know that you moved, I think it was in August of last year that you
Yeah.
moved here to Miami. Can you tell us a little bit about why that is, or why that decision?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was originally born here in Miami. So this is my roots. So I left to go to school in Pittsburgh, and that's where we founded Envonics. And we started diving into controlled environment agriculture and how we can help. And kind of the big things that attracted us to Miami, number one was that this is where I'm from. Number two is that the tech scene that's happening here, the big tech that's moving down here, and really give us new opportunities to connect with different communities. And number three is the agriculture. There's a lot of agriculture happening in the Redlands, in Homestead, and we're even seeing some in Boynton Beach, really on the edge of you know, the Everglades, kind of close, I guess, to where Kelvin's farms are. And being able to promote this, you know, locally grown movement, which is super important. And the fact that Miami is kind of, you know, on the edge, if you look at it geographically, it's hard to get to from the farmland and, you know, the rest of the United States. So there was a couple of things that attracted to us. We're very happy that we moved down here. For example, we're now working with a farm in Brickell area, or kind of Overtown area, you know, where they are growing in shipping containers. They are providing, you know, locally grown produce to restaurants. They are in an opportunity zone, helping, you know, the local area find jobs and support them. So being able to support something like that is very important for us in our mission, which is really to bring more locally grown produce to everybody. Because we think it's very important for your health, as well as for, you know, as population grows, you know, where can we get our food from? And it's much better when you know the farmer rather than, you know, just getting from a department store.
Very good, Lior. Yeah, and Kelvin, similar question to you, but I'm just familiar because I live out in that way out west, but with just Belle Glade. But can you talk a little bit about some of the areas and farms that you guys have for Florida crystals as well?
Yeah, so if you look at a Florida map, the vast majority of our operation are in the eastern and southern part of Lake Okeechobee. Florida Crystals has about 200,000 acres there, and the majority of our crop is sugarcane. That's our main business, sugar. But we do rotational crops. We do sweet corn, we do vegetables in partnership with other farmers in the area, where we allow them to grow their crops. And it's part of our sustainability efforts and conservation efforts. We use it as part of an effort to renew the soil. When you do sugarcane, it can, and do several cuts of it, it can compact the soil or mistreat the soil. So we do a rotation of crops to regenerate that soil. Rice is very, very useful because it gets rid of pests as well. And as I was saying, we're heavily getting into organic and doing how do we organic uses no chemicals, no fertilizers. If we do, it's all natural, and we do stuff. We're researching things like composting to do natural fertilization, and we have another our competitor, U.S. Sugar, is in the area as well. They have a very large operation in sugarcane and oranges in the South Florida area. And as I mentioned before, South Florida is a very generous soil. It's a very unique soil that very rich in minerals and nutrients. It's called muck. It's not your regular dirt or mud. So that's very unique about South Florida. And it's the soil that keeps on giving, because it's very useful and very beneficial.
I just learned something today. I did want to open up a little bit of discussion here about some of the data. So Wanjun, what are some of the different types of data that are being tracked that's important to farmers to ensure that they are sustainable and then also prevent the loss of crops? Can you talk a little bit about some of that data?
Yeah, sure. The data is the core of any technology. So the technical part of the data. So the first layer is the grow technology. So in order for plants to grow healthily, there are about 9 parameters around the plants, starting with light, temperature, humidity, CO2, airflows, and down below we have root zone temperature, water, minerals, and importantly, oxygen. So those are the ones that we've been tracking, technology part. We're tracking those to make sure the plants are growing in the best condition, specific to that type of plants and according to the stages. So in this case, we can make sure that the plant gets what it needed to perform the best. So the other part of the data gathering, it has to do with something that we do the monitoring and diagnostics. So we have a camera to capture the data of how plants growing. So from there, we use computer vision to derive the information that can tell us how good the plant is growing, and then we could use the data gathered from all kinds of data points that we can infer what situation the plant is in and what can happen in the future, say in 2 weeks. So that is a part of the things that we can help out the farmers by gathering the data. But outside of this grow technology, I believe there are also information that the farmers need in order to operate the business. One example is the market condition. So we need to know the farmer needs to know what other farmers is working on, so that we don't create the issue of everybody's producing the same plants at the same time. So that we don't create a waste or create a surplus of the supply that nobody wants. And on the other hand, we create a vacuum for the plants that really need to be produced. And that actually gets to the point, I believe Lior mentioned once, about the how do we get to the, oh, it's a Kelvin, I mean, I don't remember, sorry. It was the how to get to the produce to the supermarket, right? So that is also the information technology that we need to develop in terms of logistics. In urban areas specifically, how do we incorporate the community settings, allows those urban farms to better serve the community? So where are the customers? How do they behave? What's the best location for people to get those fresh fruit? So in those information, if it's available, if there's a platform in urban settings, that will help out these the farmers operate in urban settings too. So that's my point here.
Thank you so much, Wanjun. Did either one of you, Lior or Kelvin, have anything you wanted to add to that as well?
Yeah, sure. I think there's a difference, right, in the data that's being tracked for, controlled environment agriculture and traditional agriculture, like the difference between what me and Wanjun are doing and what Kelvin is working on. For us, for controlled environment agriculture, right, we kind of break it up into, 3 different areas where it's water, air, and light. So building on what Wanjun said, like those data points, all those data points are going to tell you really what the plant is doing and what it wants to do. We can see by its rate of consumption, by how it's growing, and really understand on a plant basis, what does the plant need and what is the perfect environment. Because not everybody's going to have the same lighting, not everybody's going to have the same humidity or temperature. So the plants are going to react a little differently. So being able to use the data to listen to the plant. And that's very important in terms of controlled environment agriculture. And it was amazing to see that Wanjun is also building, the other end of things in terms of business operations, in terms of tracking, what the market is asking for, how to get it into the hands of the consumers. That's something that I think might be overlooked in this industry. So it's great to hear that somebody is working on that as well.
Yeah, I
Very
would
good.
end
Thank
that.
you.
I would
Go
end
ahead,
that at
Kelvin.
saying that data is extremely important in agriculture and farming right now, because it is the key factor that is differentiating one farmer from the other. Because by having accessibility to that data and reading that data correctly, you can determine how well are you managing your crop and how profitable you can become with that crop as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you to all of you for that as well. And we did, just as you guys were talking here, I think that question opened up a few other questions in chat. So I'm going to throw a few of these out here. Mark McGuire was saying that he actually came from a family of farmers and he spent some time like in Mexico recently and also realized the difference in their foods there, and said that he's at the point now where he really just wants to support local farmers and would rather buy produce that's healthy for us than produce that's pretty. So I thought that was a cool comment there too, Mark. And Richard asks, says, question for either of the panelists, but Lior did mention South Dade. Have they found that traditional farmers in South Dade, Redland, Homestead area are open to the new processes and systems? And do the panelists believe that these farmers could benefit from more of a technology approach? So I guess to anybody that would like to answer that.
Yeah, I could kind of jump on that. Yeah, we worked a little bit in like the Redlands and Homestead area. We are seeing some controlled environment agriculture going in there, in terms of fully controlled indoors. So when you go indoors, you need technology. So the technology adoption is pretty quick there. One thing that is a challenge here in Florida is greenhouses, because in the summer months, it gets way too hot to operate those. So people kind of stay away from them. But they do have shade houses. In terms of, adopting technology, I think Kelvin covered this kind of early on about it's a very slow process. Also labor down there in Homestead and Redlands is very cheap. They could get cheap labor. So it might be, better business operation for that farm to use the cheap labor as opposed to implementing new technology that will cost them more money initially. As well as, require more maintenance, because now you have to maintenance the technology. But we do see slow adoption. And I think, as Kelvin mentioned in the beginning, as technology's price decreases and starts to equal, the labor prices, then there'll start being some faster adoption.
Thank you for that, Lior. And we have another question here from Mark. Says, what I'm curious to know data-wise is if we are tracking how much food waste we have in Florida and how much of that food waste is grown in Florida. And he says, and why that food is not being redistributed to the lower income community. That's actually a really good question, Mark. I don't know if anybody wants to take that one.
Yeah, I could go again. So yeah, I mean, I think the problem with redistribution of food is, kind of the liability that nothing's, doesn't have a disease or anything like that, or kind of, who knows what happened to it between, the first person and the second person. And I don't know, are we tracking, what food waste is grown in Florida? Because that would be very interesting to know, because then Kelvin can use it for compost. So thinking kind of how we can bring that all back around.
It's a good point. We're at the beginning of the process, right? We're providing the product. I know that, for example, on sugar that is not used or is thrown away, sugar can be brought back into the refinery and reprocessed again, so it doesn't have to be thrown away. I know that from sugar, but we're at the beginning of the supply chain. We're not at the end. So it's in our case, I don't think we're tracking food waste per se,
That was a very good question. And thank you both, Lior and Kelvin, for trying to take that one there. So we got a few questions in chat. So I'm going to do a couple more here, and then I'll try to get back to these after we do some more of the panel questions. Let's see. So Pranav asks, how important is the use of technology in supply chain management of the vegetables and fruits, taking them from the farmers to the actual end customers? And what changes can we expect in the current status or about 5 years down the road, be it forecasting, tracking, or even the last mile delivery?
Well, I'll start saying that technology is very important to shorten the time in that supply chain run. How do you get fresh vegetables quicker from the farm to the counter for consumption? Because I would say, going back to the waste now, is that there's probably a lot of waste produced in that transit of those vegetables, depending how far you have to move those goods. And again, probably in some cases, it's not necessary to move a lettuce from Florida all the way to Seattle, for example. Maybe there's a closer production to that. So innovating in the supply chain area as to where can you get that product at a closer distance or at a more cost-effective way, we should expect improvements in supply chain there with technology. Also, a challenge that everyone is facing is in the hauling of food or any product. Truckers are very scarce now. It's very challenging to get truckers to move the product. So if we can also have involvement in our infrastructure, do more rails, because rails is a cost-effective way to move products across the US, but our rail system has been degrading over the last few decades, so it needs heavy investment. So increased technology in distribution of food being produced would be helpful, and visibility into the supply chain of where's my closest and where's my best way to get it quicker into the market is where technology will help.
I agree with that. So I think one of very effective way to eliminate a lot the waste or the issue with the shelf lives is the integration of resources planning. What if we can allow the customers to do subscription, pre-plan their demand, so we can distribute the demands to the suppliers, to the farmers, and they know where where the demand is when it's needed, so they can harvest according to the schedule. So that will cut down the time of the produce to be stored in the shelf, and for the storage and for the transportation too, if we know the distance where it needs to go. So I think there definitely information technology needs to be developed to enhance this area.
Yeah, and I agree to all of what you're saying. I think just to add on, like the lettuce, 90% of the lettuce we get here, on the East Coast comes from Arizona or California. And that takes 50% of that life of that lettuce is on a truck. So the food waste happens, because of the long supply chain. So as we start seeing, more locally grown produce, that movement, you get a longer shelf life because it was picked and the next day it's on the shelf as opposed to, a week later. So it has a longer shelf life, and again, also more nutritious. And we can see companies like App Harvest, they've set up a huge tomato farm hub in Kentucky, where they can reach, majority of population on the East Coast and the Northeast within a day's drive. So as we see movements like that, where, kind of decentralizing agriculture, we'll start to see a big change in shelf life, and I think in waste product.
Yeah, and also one of the things that mentioned by Miami Trade Commissioner who was here last week, and he mentioned a set place in community settings that where you can partition out the urban farm. This is for your family. Like, this is what I want to grow. So you can actually plan out what you want to grow for yourself. In this case, that you basically control what production is, what consumption will be, and you actually can bypass the grocery store, that section. So you reduce the cost and also increase the reliability of the food you're looking for.
Very cool.
Thank you, all of you. And I'm just keeping track of time. We've got a little over 5 minutes left, so I'm going to try to get a couple more questions in here. I did want to talk a little bit about the talent, right? So whether we're a startup or a larger company like Florida Crystals, we all need talent. And I wanted to talk about so we have University of Florida in Gainesville. We have Florida A&M University also in Tallahassee. So I'm sure there's others that are also doing courses or degrees in agriculture, but can you tell us what is the major impact of having these schools in our backyard? And then what has it been like trying to find ag technology here in South Florida? So for any of the students listening or any of the university people that may see this, can you guys talk a little bit about just the talent that's needed?
Sure. So I would say that it's very important, especially in Florida, for the local universities to bring more exposure to the agriculture industry. Maybe work with local farmers or big corporations in South Florida and expose them to what's out there. Because I think a lot of people don't know that we have a large agriculture industry in Florida, especially young college kids coming up. They don't realize that a lot of the orange juice they're drinking is being produced right here in Florida, right? So is expand those career choices for them, give them exposure, increase those opportunities, work with local corporations and farming to get that, because there is shortage of people going into this area, and we're seeing it. But again, I would say to students going out there that it doesn't have to be focused on agriculture, because it can be any technology. Like if you like satellite, if you like drones, they're being heavily used now in agriculture, believe it or not. Data scientists are coming into agriculture and using satellite imagery, using drone images to analyze them and determine health of the crop, yield of the crop, weather information. If people like weather, you don't need to be a weather forecaster on the news. You can come work with agriculture, to work on weather. So the opportunity, I always say the opportunities are endless from the earth to the sky, where you want to work on sensors on the soil, satellite imagery, applying IoT applications with tractors, sensors, and all that. So it's endless.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
and go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Wanjun.
You want me to do? Okay, so the one of the things that we are working with the university is the definitely they need our assistant to do a research. So with the precision controlled environment, they can repeat their result so that they can find new discoveries and publish the papers. But on the other hand, they also start building curriculum with our equipment. So so that they can expose the digital agriculture, how to do the facility management, how do we have a data to influence the growth to the students so that they get firsthand experience on those. So when they graduate and they were ready to move with the new technology. The other thing I want to address and actually in the audience question about re-education piece, for the farmers, I would say that we are not replacing farmers. Farmers has a unique experience on this. We are the tools, we providing tools for them to better use the resources and get a yield. One of the things that we do have to do is building demo spaces, demo farms to showcase what's capable for them. So because they are not exposed to it, they didn't know. So it's our society obligation to build something that can benefit those farmers. So.
Yeah, I think Wanjun and Kelvin covered it pretty much. But as we see, more technology being adapted really to the agriculture industry, it's very easy to get into. Any kind of technical degree, engineering, data science can be applied. Like our company, Envonics, we're made up of, 2 mechanical engineers who founded the company. Right. So we had nothing to do with agriculture, but we were passionate about, sustainability and health. Right. So all of that merged together to develop an agriculture technology company. So yeah, the jobs, they're hard to find. The talent's hard to find, but I think it's starting to happen. It's starting to become more common where people, yes, the younger generation, they want to have an impact with their work. So what better impact than what we eat every single day. Yeah.
Yeah, those were all great points. And I love, Kelvin, how you kind of started out just by saying technology is technology, whether it's hardware, software, it doesn't matter what you're doing or what industry. So if somebody has those skills, because I feel like when you talk to different people in different industries, it's very similar, is that people, quote unquote, fall into it, is that, hey, I wanted to get into technology and I didn't know where, and I fell into ag tech or health tech or whatever it is. And so I think, yeah, just I forget which one of you kind of said that, but just to kind of pointing out to the students to look into this industry just in general, that if you've got a love for technology, that ag tech will definitely take you.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to close out this discussion with just one final question. This came from Arnon in chat, but for anybody that's listening this morning, is there one single organization or an organization in Florida that's devoted to accelerating the introduction of ag tech? Like, are there organizations that you guys could mention that you know of that people should look into?
I guess unfortunately, no. But I know the University of Florida does a good job at, with their extension unit. They're able to, help farmers adopt new technology that's gone through their research.
Mm-hmm.
But really an organization that kind of pushes ag tech. Yeah, my tech hub might be it. Who knows?
Yeah, I would say that I know of, there's no specific company, but the University of Florida does do a lot of research and innovation with students and with companies on working. For example, one of our sources of weather information is from the University of Florida. So we collaborate and we access their data, their weather data that they provide. So they do a lot of work with agriculture and innovation and sensor work and research, but it's more around the research, and sometimes we do some pilots with them. So I think locally, that's probably the organization that's doing most for ag tech in Florida.
Yeah.
Perfect. So one, I'm going to say thank you, and two, I'm going to say sorry. Why is because we've got great questions in chat, and I always feel bad when we've got great engagement from everybody and then I can't get through all of them. So maybe this is another one that we need to do a part 2. So I always like when I kind of can't get through the questions because it means that people want to hear more. And then my thank you is to, of course, all of you panelists. Thank you, Wanjun, Lior, Kelvin, for attending, and of course, everybody that came on bright and early at 8 a.m. this morning to listen to this discussion and to really be the first one for us. So hopefully this is not the last either. So thank you again, and hopefully everybody has a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Have a nice day.
You too. Bye.